technical difficulties on camera transition to our live stream. We are going to be live today on Flow Racing. Huge shout out to Flow Racing. We are going to be the first major drifting on Flow Racing's major racing platform, so we're excited about that. We're also live on YouTube, so if you want to catch anything in a little bit more detail, you can always pull your phone out, head on over to YouTube, and pull up the live stream on the Lake Erie Speedway YouTube and the Great Lakes Pro-Am Series YouTube. As we're just getting to live here, as Zach had mentioned, we have Grayson McBride in a fresh build Corvette down here waiting to make a stab at qualifying. This is going to be a single run qualifying with the top 24 first runs getting locked into competition. 32 will end up in. Anybody below the top 24 will get a second run to try to better themselves into the top 32 action here, starting just a little bit later this evening.
Yeah, it also should be noted that the way this works is if you've ever seen a sports bracket build out, it is exactly the same thing. You will have 32 goes to 16, goes to 8, 4, 2, then we will crown ourselves a winner. And there is no round-robin style battles. The person that you get drawn to battle in top 32 is your only top 32 run, and then it will continue downward to one after that.
So as we get locked in here, as I had mentioned, if you just got into the Speedway, it's Brandon's first time with us, good friend of ours, Jake Gettins. Sent Brandon over from the virtual world. He's done virtual commentating. Brandon, I'm sure that you're excited to get after it here for round number 1 of the Pro-Am.
Yeah, I'm super excited to be here with you guys at Lake Erie Speedway. I've been watching the Great Lakes Pro-Am Series for quite a few years now, and I've been involved with a couple of the drivers that are out here today. So coming from the virtual world, I can't thank Jacob Gettins enough for his help getting me to this point, and I'm super stoked to be here with you guys.
So with that, if you've never been here for the Pro-Am before, we got some serious builds out here, all the way down to about a 250 horsepower Miata piloted by Chris Fosnack. Sorry, Chris, I think I butchered your last name, but so 250 horsepower Miata all the way up to almost 1,000 horsepower V8 cars out here. Grayson, who you can see sitting out here on grid with the pink wheels on his C6 Corvette. This is a fresh build. LS Power under the hood all the way from Canada. And get this, guys, they didn't make a right-hand drive Corvette, but Grayson said, I want one. So he made himself a right-hand drive Corvette as he is used to piloting S chassis, and he had an AE86 that he drove previously in the Pro-Am Series. So this is a really unique build. I encourage you guys, if you're in the grandstands, to head back out front to the ticket booth and get yourselves a pit pass, because you can go in there and walk around all these cars, check out the builds. There's some serious, serious builds over there. SEMA level quality builds over there. Tons of horsepower, smell the race gas or the E85, making good cold power for these guys on a cool day here in Northeast Pennsylvania. Again, we're at Lake Erie Speedway, Northeast PA, just a couple miles off the lake. Absolutely beautiful surroundings in grape country. There's plenty of wineries. If you're up for the weekend, make sure that you stop down into Northeast and check out some of the local businesses and support them as they support the Lake Erie Speedway and the Great Lakes Pro-Am Series. Again, shout out to Drift PA, Ohio, New York, the mothership of drifting at Lake Erie Speedway, laying the foundation for us to have such a cool showing. I'm sure some of you guys have been there in the past for a regular 3-day Mat Series event. This one's going to be a lot of fun because this is some serious horsepower and some serious driving heading your way in just a moment.
Yeah, as well as being the commentator up here, I also am the guy who does all the tech inspection for the mornings. And I got the chance to actually take a look at Grayson's car this morning. right-hand drive in Corvette in and of itself is an oxymoron. I mean, you're talking about like the American quote-unquote pinnacle supercar, muscle car, right-hand drive. It's got the dash out of a 240SX in it to make it all fit. And to actually get up close to it and look, that car is immaculate. Everything on it is perfect. As far as I know, he's only driven it like 3 or 4 times.
All right, so if you're just getting with us on the stream or here at the Speedway, as Zach had explained, qualifying, you're looking to throw down as close to a 100-point lead as you can. It's 0 to 100, although rather seldom that you see the zeros anymore. And you can see in the backstretch, I'll refer to everything as a speedway, considering most people are familiar with the oval racing stuff. In the backstretch, going into turn number 3, there's 3 white lines on the ground, and then you see the orange cones. You have to be initiated by the 3rd line into that box as close to the cones as possible. All of the zone, all the angle, all the speed is the whole goal in every zone that you can see. The front boxes, you have to have the front of the car all the way in them to receive the highest point run. So Grayson McBride, all the way from Canada in his fresh build, going to be the first challenger to try to seed this bracket out before we get to the action. And shout out to Distinct Drift for coming back on board for the 2026 season. Speaking of Distinct Drift, you see the blue Corvette warming its tires up. That's Distinct Drift's owner, Craig Pust. So Craig making his first start in the Great Lakes Pro-Am Series here this weekend. All right, lights are on and off, and Grayson is through the chicane. He is good initiation into outside zone number 1, having some trouble getting to outside zone number 2. Gets out there, leaves the zone just a little bit early. Smoke rolling off the back of this Corvette into the center section of track, just a little bit shallow in that zone. Gets all of this one, throws a couple tires out, so that would be a deduction there. It's a nice job on the inner clip, misses getting to that outer touch and go. Phenomenal job on the last inner. He sets that car up into the last outer zone, laying down the smoke. Looks like maybe dropping a tire with a little waver across the line, but overall a pretty good run for Grayson to get us started off here.
Yeah, you can see what I mean there. The whole goal here is to go as fast as you can, generally speaking, on outside zones, as wide as you can without going over the furthest outside line. Any tire outside of the designated race surface is going to cost you some points in judging. Grayson did a really good job there. I can tell you guys from watching practice that if you see the K-rails out in front of you, coming from turn 1 to stretch through that inner clip, to hit that outside zone and then stretch it all the way down into that 3rd outside zone was proving to be extremely difficult for everybody on track.
All right, and now up at the line, we've got Craig Pust in his LS3-powered Corvette, coming here from West Newton, Pennsylvania. Sponsored again by Distinct Drift. He is the owner of Distinct over there, and he is powered by this beautiful blue Chevrolet Corvette. Getting ready to go ahead and lay down that qualifying run here.
So Craig, a good friend to the Great Lakes Pro-Am Series. Actually honored to say that I'm a part of the Distinct Drift family. As I drove the Great Lakes Pro-Am Series last year, got yanked up to the booth this year, but was planning on getting some tire deals from Craig so that could cut the bill down a little bit. So luckily that has been alleviated, and I'm glad to bring the action to you guys at home watching on Flow Racing and YouTube, and everybody joining us here at the Speedway. It's a beautiful afternoon. We're ready to see our second qualifier, Craig Pust.
Yeah, I honestly cannot say enough good things about Craig. As well as driving the Pro-Am Series, he comes out to all the Mat Series events and at least hangs out for a little bit, brings us all tires to ruin throughout the weekend, and just an all-around good guy. And that is, I mean, for all intents and purposes, basically a stock Corvette. It's got a cam, a little bit of work done here and there, and some angle in it.
Also, Craig is just down outside of Pittsburgh. If anybody has their fancy sports car, you want to get paint protection film or anything like that, he's the guy to hit up. Look up Distinct Appearance on Facebook, and you can go get yourself PPF'd up as we take a look at the fans on the live stream. Thanks for joining us here. It's a beautiful afternoon. Again, if you're just joining us, it's going to be a single run top 24, get locked in, and then anybody outside of the top 24 will get a second run to try to crack their way into 32. Grayson McBride going to receive a 61 to get things started, so some room for improvement as Craig Pust initiates into that first zone. Oh, he's a little bit wide on outer two. It's going to send him out of the zone very early, dropping 2 tires early on. You can hear that LS-powered car getting lugged down into the infield as he shoots into the hairpin to the inner clip. Just a little bit wide there, gets all of the touch and go on the way out. Love that. Gets nice job on the inner clip. Right up against the white line to set himself up for the last outer zone as he gets out there and gets all of it as the smoke rolls off the back of that C5 Corvette.
Yeah, and I got a chance to watch Craig a lot in qualifying, and I know for a fact that get the wheel speed right and not overshoot this and not undershoot that, and definitely a very good effort there by Craig.
Yeah, and you talk about the fact that that car isn't exactly the most built car that we have on grid here, but he is still out here making it work. Obviously struggling a little bit in that one outside zone with keeping the car right where it's got to be, but did pretty good in some other spots of the track. A couple things that he could clean up going into a possible second run if he doesn't make it into that top 24 right out of the gate. We'll have to see what the rest of our qualifiers do leading up to that point.
All right, and you guys saw that GR86 that came out was warming up the tires, and something went wrong, and he ended up having to pull off. So instead, lining up now, you have Dominic Desrosiers coming from Drummondville, Ontario, Canada.
Dominic going to be piloting that Nissan S14 out there. Looks like 2JZ powered. Sounding absolutely beautiful out there on the track as he goes ahead and warms up those tires, getting ready to start this qualifying run here. And I got to admit, I'm a guy who's got green wheels on his car. I'm a pretty big fan of these neon wheels I'm seeing out here. This is a beautiful machine.
Yeah, just give you guys a quick rundown here on the sponsors covering that car for Dominic. You have Let's Go Travel Agency, Louis Lafleur Garage, JIP Work, W-Tech Scale Suspension, BBRS, McConaughey Lazier, DGP Corp, CDQ Auto, Phase Top Coating, and XAT Racing. So a lot of support behind Dominic.
Again, Dominic all the way from Drummondville, Ontario, Canada. Again, this S14.3 set up with a swap on the front end to an S13 front end. That's what makes it an S14.3. Originally started its life with a S14 front end on it. Not sure if it was a Kuki or a Zenki, but in layman's terms, that's basically the difference between years of an S chassis. And when we talk about that, we're talking about 1990s Nissan 240 SXs. Really well tied together, livery, wheel, and wrap setup for Dominic. Also, his first time joining the Great Lakes Pro-Am Series here in 2026. for round number 1. And there is some serious guys coming from all over the United States. We got guys from North Carolina. We got guys from not the United States, Canada. Yeah, Michigan, New York, all over the place. Believe before we get Dominic out, we're fighting just a little bit of technical difficulty here with the stream, so bear with us. If you haven't already, if you're joining us or you're on the stream, make sure that you head on out to your social medias, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, all your major platforms, and look up Lake Erie Speedway. Make sure you tap that follow button, see some of the awesome media that comes out. You see all the highlighter vests down in the infield. That's all the media people, and they will release some seriously cool perspectives of this event as Dominic makes his way through the chicane. You hear that Jay-Z singing off the limiter. He's in a little bit deep on the 3-2-1 initiation cones, comes in short on all of outside zone number 1, pushes him into the alley here, wide of the inner clip, leaves that distinct drift outer zone early. Now a big straighten from Dominic, so maybe just a little bit too much grip in the S14.3 for Dominic as he drives wide of a couple zones on this qualifying attempt. So far in the first couple runs here, we've seen some errors that are surely going to have to be cleaned up to be able to have a good chance of getting locked into the top 24. Quick interjection here. Craig Pust qualified with a 56. So far we have a 61 and a 56 as we await to see the score that Dominic gets.
And now as we wait to go ahead and get that score slotted in here, we've got Luke pulling up with his Turbo M52 BMW E36 here. He's sponsored by Langlide app, LGE Coachworks, and he is a part of Team Dirty Work, piloting that black BMW E36, coming here all the way from Chardon, Ohio.
I've had the pleasure of driving with Luke quite a bit at the end of last year and the beginning of this year. He's been grinding really hard to perfect the craft and getting tons of seat time in the way.
Yeah, this car specifically for Luke was naturally aspirated until like a month ago and was freshly tuned right before our Spring Mat Series event, which was his shakedown of this car. So this is a very, very fresh setup, relatively new to him in general.
So again, if it's your first time watching competitive drifting, what's going on over there is you see Brian standing down on the start line. He has a little remote in his hand. There's a small light pole down in between the lead and the chase position by that very first cone under that metal arch you can see at the start line. He makes sure the driver's ready. He clicks go on the button. It illuminates one light, second light, third light, and then the lights go out. When the lights go out, the driver is clear to go through the chicane and take his attempt at a qualifying run. As Brian points down to the light, you see the lights come on, lights go off, and Luke Gillespie in that Landglide E36 is down the chute, initiates, big straighten on initiation for Luke, but he's getting all of outside zone number 1. That's the distinct drift first outer zone. As he comes into the middle, this is the hairpin here, going to get all of that zone, maybe even dropping a tire. A small waiver, but repainting those white lines, trying to make it difficult later on in qualifying for these guys. Gets out to the touch and go, resets the car for the inner clip. He's heavy on the throttle and the limiter. As he gets back out, he's going to blow off track, take some cones with him. As that's going to be a pretty big deduction, dropping at least one tire in that last outer distinct drift zone.
I mean, his first competitive shakedown of this car, obviously Matt Seary, The track layout's a lot tighter. It's not so wide open throttle. It's a little bit just kind of more reserved everywhere. So a lot of these cars out here today are going to have things like a quick change rear end. They're going to be able to adjust rear ratios on the fly. Luke, I don't believe, is one of those guys. I don't remember if his car has a quick change in it or not. But definitely a lot of adjustment to come from a Matt Seery kind of layout back to a Pro-Am layout.
All right, and as we wait for some scores to slide in there, next up to the line here, we've got Christopher Gonzalez piloting a BMW E46. That car is powered by an M50 B30 Turbo, and he's coming up here from Virginia, down in Leesburg. Was just down there at Hyperfest, got to hang out with him and a bunch of other guys, watch him drive. Now he's up here, he's ready to party, he's ready to throw down, put on a good show for you guys here, everybody watching at home, and he's ready to qualify.
So Dominic Desaurier gets a 24 on his first run. Probably going to be looking at a second run to try to lock himself into the top 32. And Luke got a 52 for Luke Gillespie. So Luke Gillespie, the third highest score that we've seen so far in the 50s. We'd expect to see some high 80s, low 90s here through qualifying. So some work cut out for these drivers here.
Yeah, watching in practice, Chris's car is really interesting. When I teched it this morning, that is an M54 B30, which is the stock power plant for that chassis. Stock transmission behind it with a quick change. So the only real things done to it, turbo tune, it's on standalone, it's on a link, with a quick change on it. And watching him in practice, man, he is solid, especially in the chase, in the lead, kind of figuring things out a little bit, but ultimately extremely good.
All right, so Chris Gonzalez gets through the chicane, initiates by that third initiation point, calculated into that first distinct drift outer zone as he puts it right up against the line. Gets all of the inner out to that distinct drift. Oh, a jut forward in a straighten for Chris into the keyhole as he pushes just a little bit wide. Now he's going to shut it down. So for everybody who's watching their first time drifting or competitive drifting, a big straighten like that's going to result in an incomplete or a zero. So unfortunately for Chris, he's probably going to be looking at taking a second run here after we get the
Coming up to the line now, we've got another one of these very flashy Corvettes pulling up. That's going to be Jake Little from Lake Norman down there in North Carolina. And that Corvette's powered by an LS7 under the hood. Got quite a few sponsors on that car. We'll rattle a couple of them off to you here that you might recognize. One of them being Drift HQ, a very, very well-known sponsor out there in the drifting world these days. Also sponsored by RTS, SRI Performance, C4 Energy for those of you who can't stay away from the energy drinks back home. And he's on his way.
Jake Little, all the way from North Carolina, initiates into the first distinct drift outer zone. He's going to push it wide, drop two tires out of the back, so going to be a big deduction on outer zone number one for Jake Little. Makes his way into the keyhole. Nice job on the inner clip, gets all of that distinct drift outer zone. Oh! All the way out of the keyhole, probably 3 off there it looked like, so maybe an incomplete zero for Jake Little. We'll find out here in a minute from the judges, but completes this run out, painting the white line down, that LS power screaming under the hood of the C6 Corvette.
Yeah, watching Jake in practice, he had a pretty unfortunate morning. It sounded like that car was dropping cylinders. Had to have been something electrical because he kept getting it fixed. I can't imagine anything mechanical was failing and they were fixing and bringing the car back out, but I don't think I actually saw him complete a full lap in practice with how poorly it was behaving.
And now pulling up to the line, we've got one of probably my favorite cars on the grid. I've really never seen something this unique show up to a somewhat pro-level competition. But we've got Alex Gutierrez. Sorry if I butchered your name there, Alex. We're trying to get through it up here. But he's driving an LS-powered Volvo 740 from Newcastle, Pennsylvania. And he made sure to let us know, to let you guys know, that he is self-represented out here, making it happen.
All right, and as Ben was saying during the run there earlier, Chris going to end up with an incomplete, so he will have to come out and make another run. After watching him in practice, I have to assume something went wrong with the car. He was doing so well all morning.
Early on in this one for round number 1 of the Great Lakes Pro-Am Series presented by Crosby's. Again, this is a Formula Drift sanctioned Pro-Am Series, so the winner of all 4 rounds of the Pro-Am will take home their Pro Spec license and get the chance to go compete with the big dogs in Pro Spec. There's some storylines developing so far that we've seen, lots of unfortunate mistakes so far for some of these guys, but also, if I'm not mistaken, Gabe with that NASCAR-powered 8.6 or FRS, I'm not sure what it was, but looked like he came out early on, was supposed to be the second or third qualifier and took it back to the pits, so we'll see if we can get some kind of update on Gabe, as that thing's got a NASCAR R07 under the hood. So, but some really unique cars, like I said, if you haven't already, if you're in the grandstands, you can head out front to the ticket booth. You can get yourself a pit pass, and you can head on over there and check these cars out up close and personal, as Alex Gutierrez in the Volvo brick launches it into outside zone number 1, comes out quite a bit early. Can hear the LS power coming out that side exit exhaust as he gets through the keyhole. Heavy throttle commitment puts him right up against that distinct drift outer zone, outer line. Nice job on the inner clip, gets to the touch and go. Back to the final inner clip, he gets right on through there, planting the nose of that Volvo to it, and gets all of the last outer zone. So really nice, clean job. Just a little bit of a bobble on the initiation there for Alex Gutierrez.
Yeah, and in my mind, as a spectator and as a driver myself, I think Alex's car is kind of a prime example of what this is all about. I mean, you have the most unsuspecting basic chassis, big swap, basic angle upgrades, basic suspension. It's got a fuel cell in it and all the weight cut out of it, and it comes out and does the thing. And that is one man in a garage just turning wrenches and welding.
So again, more first-time competitors coming our direction.
And then just to get back to you guys with the score for Jake Little, it is going to be a 47 on the first run, and we've got Alex slotting in with a 59 to kick things off for that first run qualifying. See how well that holds up for these guys as we keep going through the field here. But right now, pulling up to the line, we've got Brian Martin piloting that Nissan 370Z with a very nice livery going on for it there. He's coming out to us from Vermillion, Ohio. Quite a couple good sponsors on there. We got Race Labs Industries, Muffler D Elite, Liquid Molly, and of course the Great Lakes Auto Glass. So here he goes. He's ready to go for his qualifying lap. Wait and see what he does.
Brian Martin, a good friend of mine, coined the King of Paynesville, small track just down the road from us. So Brian took home the Paynesville Grassroots Comp last year. His first time competing in the Pro-Am with us here at Lake Erie Speedway in a fresh turbo build on that car by Race Lab Industries. Another good buddy of mine, Jerry Daggett, helping out with Brian's Pro-Am program this year. So again, we've hardly broken a score of 60 yet, so there's a room for a lot of improvement. As for a lot of these guys, it very well could be their first time driving this year, if not It's their first time competing this year, so nerves to get out of the way. If you're new to drifting, drifting is just as much a mental game as it is a skill and battle of your chariot to make sure that it's going to make it all the way through the round. So I think that that's what we're seeing so far here.
To kind of add on to that, Ben, I can say just from my own experience, after every winter, because we all know how great Pennsylvania winters are for rear-wheel drive cars, getting back on track and having to convince yourself to take the car to the level of abuse that you need to do.
And there is a little bit of a correction here on Alex's score. It's going to come down a little bit, it looks like, to a 56.67. So going to be walking in with that kind of a score here. We'll see how well that holds up as we go through the event.
All right, so Brian Martin from Vermilion, Ohio, in this fresh build Z, initiates into the first distinct drift outer, comes up just a little bit short, now gets out into that outer zone. Coming into the center of the track here, gets all of the inner clip in that distinct drift outer. Good job through the keyhole to the inner clip. Now the touch and go. Gets all of the touch and go back to the inner clip for the final time. Doing a nice job. Last distinct drift outer, and Brian repaints that outer white line black. So again, just a little bit of nerve on the front end of that one as Brian was just a little bit squeamish into the first outer, gets it cleaned up on the way out and lays down a really decent qualifying run.
Yeah, you can see him there as he was coming down the back straight, smacking the roof of the car. He is definitely happy with that for his first run out today.
Yeah, and as he wraps up that run there and heads back into the pits there to get everything cleaned up in case he's got to go again. Now we've got Andrew Wilder pulling up to the line, and another one of my favorite cars here. We got a Scion FRS with an LS3 under the hood. A beautiful wide body kit going on for it. He's sponsored by Zamp Racing, Sicky Manufacturing, Stage Wheels, all kinds of pretty cool people that are out there helping support the drift community, making sure that they can give whatever they can back. And he's coming all the way out here from Circleville, Ohio, so just over across the border a little ways. He's here to throw down and give you all a show.
Andrew Wilder, not a rookie with the Great Lakes Pro-Am Series, has run with us in the past after taking last year off. So he's going to look to get it shaken out and bring some of that veteran presence into the lineup here in round number 1 of the Great Lakes Pro-Am Series. For anybody new or not new, just so you know the track that we're using here, the layout, as we like to call it, this is a recreation of Formula Drift Atlanta. So they go down the hill, as I make air asterisks, come in, get through this little alley towards the row of Jersey berries into the keyhole, and then back out to that last outer zone and across the finish line, at which point they get scored. Score is in for Brian Martin with the highest score so far here in round number 1. Brian Martin scores in with a 76.33 in his first attempt in the Great Lakes Pro-Am Series. Lights are on, lights are off. Andrew Wilder, that LS-powered FRS, blows out all the way out of the outer zone. So unfortunately, 4 tires off, probably not going to sit well with the judges on this one as he gathers it back in to the keyhole. He blows 4 off through the keyhole here. We're going to need some cone work after this one as Andrew Wilder makes his way back to the inner clip. Smoke pouring off the back of this LS-powered car. On the way out, finishes it off there. So unfortunately for Andrew Wilder, more than likely going to be a 0 on going 4 off in 2 different spots here.
Yeah, Andrew definitely kind of a veteran to the series, but I think having an entire year off, especially based on the circumstances that he had the year off, because Andrew ended up getting hurt, had a bunch of surgery and some other things going on with him. So the car essentially a fresh build for this year. I know he went through everything. He posted a lot about it on his Facebook and social media. Really nice guy. Everything about that car is immaculate. And he is one of the cleanest builds around. Andrew is one of the nicest human beings you could ever hope to meet. And I know that when it comes to driving, he tends to get inside of his head a little bit. So maybe just knocking some cobwebs off there on his first run.
Yeah, and every now and then, like you said, you have to knock those cobwebs off so that you can get yourself back in the zone. And speaking of somebody who's going to be in the zone, next up to the line here, piloting this Sylvia S14 in that beautiful, beautiful green color with an SR20 under the hood, we've got Maxime Cyrene pulling up here from, I can't wait to butcher this one, Shawinigan, Quebec, Canada. Hopefully I got that one right. Sorry to any of you Canadians who are out there, just in case I got that wrong. And I got to admit, I'm a sucker for the green. This is a beautiful-looking car. I got the green on my wheels, and I'm kind of hooked over here.
Yeah, some things to note about Maxime's car here that for the uninitiated, if you don't know, this car comes with a 2-liter 4-cylinder engine in it. Most very high-level drift cars, you're going to see some variant of a V8 in it, probably some kind of forced induction as we get further on in the higher horsepower stuff. Maxime, though, sticking to the roots of that car, that is a 640 wheel horsepower 2-liter 4-cylinder. And as we get confirmation here on the screen, Andrew Wilder going to get a 37 on that first run, so more than likely going to have to come back out and give it another shot here later on.
So Maxime Cyrene gonna get the go-ahead from our starter, Brian Riker, down there on the line. SR20 powered S14 initiates into that first outer and gets it into the second distinct outer zone. He comes up just short. Coming to the infield. Hear the car grip up as that SR20 bogs down, shoots a little bit narrow on the inner clip in the outer zone in the keyhole, gets to the inner, touch and go here on the way out. Blows just a little bit wide of the inner clip as he makes his way to the last outer, comes up just shy as that SR20 starts making jam on the way out.
Yeah, kind of a situation here with a lot of cars that are going to be like non-V8 powered. Drifting is a lot of torque sport. You want a lot of dig out of the back of the car. The big turbo, small literage kind of things, really going to have to work for it, especially on this layout, to keep the car in boost and keep that forward drive going, try to make everything line up. As we move on, there's a couple of 2J cars that are really, really high horsepower that can kind of do it and kind of make everything work, but ultimately the guys just have to know how to wrangle that car and get it to do all the things they want it to do, this layout being particularly difficult.
Yeah, and speaking of cars that you kind of got to wrangle around a little bit and get under control when you're out there piloting, we've got Jake Mole. I like pronouncing his name wrong every single chance that I can get. Love you, Jake. He's from pretty close out by where I'm from out there, Mechanicsburg, Pennsylvania, and he's driving this turbo LS-powered 1 Series BMW, a somewhat more popular car in the drifting scene nowadays. Kind of glad that we're seeing more of these. And as we look at the board there, it looks like I believe there was a 34 popped up for Maxime Cyrene. So we'll see if that holds up well for him. But now we got Jake going for that first qualifying run.
Yeah, you can see there on the screen as Jake leaves the line, a lot of oil smoke coming out of the back of this 1 Series.
Jake Mole initiates into the first outer zone. In the second outer, he's got all of it on this one. A nice example of what the judges are looking for to this point as he transitions to the inner clip, gets that distinct drift outer zone headed up into the keyhole, being very calculated here, which is what you need to be in qualifying. You can see in battle trim that things will move a little bit faster as everybody's starting to go toe-to-toe. But Jake knows what he needs to do here, and it's put that car exactly where it's designated to be as he lays it on the left foot brake across the line. Beautiful qualifying run for Jake Mole.
Yeah, I would say as far as the day goes, that was probably the best example we've seen so far of a full run. And Jake came out, got to look at that car in tech. It is an absolutely beautiful build, big single turbo V8, 2 gigantic wastegates coming out of the hood. And as he came out in practice, it seemed to develop a little bit of maybe even blow-by, some valve seals, something. It seemed to be burning a lot of oil on D-cell, so hopefully it holds together for the rest of the day.
As we've got another one of our drivers coming out to the line here, yet another one of the LS-powered cars, one of the Slip Club guys. We've got Kyle Hoyer from Georgetown, Virginia, piloting that very interesting color G35. I'm kind of a fan of the color scheme that we got going on here with the sort of a brownish color on the white wheels. And again, part of the Slip Club team. Got a couple of their guys out here partying with us, and we're going to see what he can put down for us here on this run.
Kyle Hoyer has been with us previously in the Great Lakes Pro-Am Series. I believe it was just one round last year, maybe two, so my apologies. But this car definitely likes to party as he makes this thing hang out with some serious horsepower cars. All things considered, a relatively mild build on this G. Again, shout out to Crosby's for coming on board for the Great Lakes Pro-Am Series in 2026, Summit Racing, Distinct Drift, all of our good friends over at Formula Drift, and all of our other sponsors for being a part, which you will hear us shout out quite frequently. If you haven't already, make sure that you head over to www.lakeeriespeedway.com. Check out the entire year's schedule. Jake Mole gonna reset that number one spot with an 86. So a great run from Jake Mole, almost getting up into the 90s as Kyle Hoyer, now on track, initiates, comes up just short on outside zone number 2, and then begins to fill all of it. Absolutely beautiful job on the inner clip, just a little bit shallow on the first outer and second outer in the keyhole. Gets the car pointed to the inner. Smoke rolling off the back of this LS-powered G. As he whips that thing in transition, it's going to put him just short of that final distinct drift outer zone. So again, maybe some nerves, cobwebs, or dust getting knocked off here for Kyle Hoyer as a couple mistakes in his first qualifying attempt, but overall a pretty clean looking run.
And speaking of the Slip Club guys, we're going back to back. We got another one coming up. We got Liam Stanford from Toronto pulling up here. He's got a Dart 427 under the hood of that BMW E46 there, and that car is looking good. I was talking to a couple of guys in the pits earlier, and they were calling it almost like a little bit of a love child between Trenton Beecham and Ryan Literal's car over there in FD. So maybe there's a little bit of inspiration there. We might not know, but what we do know is that he's ready to throw that car sideways, and we're going to see what he puts down for us here.
Yeah, one of the sponsors that you'll hear shouted out quite frequently. The majority of the guys coming from Canada are going to be sponsored by FabMac. Liam, one of them. FDF also in Canada with FabMac. And you can see there on the screen if you're watching the live stream, Kyle Hoyer going to come through with a 60.
The 427 under the hood here for Liam. Will put your grandpa's Corvette to shame beyond the shadow of a doubt as he lets this thing sing into that first outer zone. You can see he's right there against the line, punting cones out of the back, ends up leaving the zone a little bit early into the center section, blows just a little bit wide of the inner clip, has to do some major adjustments out of that distinct drift outer zone into the keyhole, comes up short on that outer, back to the inner clip, and short on the touch and go. Just a little bit wide on the inner as he finishes this run off into the last outer zone. 427 pouring smoke across the line. Man, does that thing sound healthy.
Yeah, I gotta admit, out of all the versions of those V8s that you can get out there, the Dart motors might be one of my favorite sounding engines that you can possibly put under the hood of your car. Absolutely beautiful sound as that car rips around the track.
As some of our later generation fans might say, that thing could hop a Coke can. What do you think, Lake Erie Speedway? We having fun bathing in the tire smoke yet, or what?
And now getting ready to come up to the line here in yet another C6 Corvette. We've got Nathan Brackstone, but before we go to that, we're going to check out Liam Stanford's score. Going to slide in with a 37.33. Not the highest score that we've seen so far, not the lowest. We'll have to see how that holds up. But right now, all eyes are going to Nathan Brackstone, all the way from London, but not the overseas one, the one that's up in Ontario, Canada. And he's got a couple of sponsors on that car. We got SPM Sales, 80 Parts and Performance. And I'm totally going to butcher the last one yet again, but looks like Crashar Machine, which, you know what, the name sounds pretty cool, so might have to look that up when I go home tonight.
So again, if you're joining us at the Speedway, thank you. Make sure you stop down and grab you some good food here before we get into action between qualifying and top 32 action. We're still a little ways away from that, but grab you a drink, grab you some food, use the bathroom, all that good stuff, because you're not going to want to miss out once we start battling action. So far, qualifying has been a little bit ridden with mistakes and some nerves, you can tell, but things will start to get sharper and the intensity will wrap up, especially once some of these lower scored drivers that aren't going to make their way into the 32 have to battle their way back in with a second run.
Yeah, pulling up to the line right now, Nathan Brackstone came through tech this morning with a laptop in the passenger seat, said he was still tuning that car as of this morning. So he was having some issues with it. It was dropping cylinders. It was running really rich. So hopefully he's got everything sorted out here for qualifying.
Brackstone, not his first time in the Great Lakes Pro-Am Series, and he's going to look to improve on his previous starts here in round number one as he initiates, hits a cone on the 3-2-1 run-up. Oh, Brackstone going to have a big waiver on initiation as he misses all of that first outer zone. So going to be a major deduction in score here as he makes his way up into the infield. Pushes it wide as you see cones flying. If cones are flying, you're a little bit too deep in that zone as it's going to end up in a big deduction as he pushes it out past the inner clip to the final outside zone. Smoke rolling off the back of the C6 Corvette for Nathan Brackstone. And again, I'm sure that you can probably imagine, based on some of the other scores that we've seen so far, where Nathan Brackstone might land.
Yeah, not the most perfect run that we've seen today, but you know what? Finishing it off strong, a lot of tire smoke through that last outside zone and getting across the line at the very least. So hopefully we'll see if a score comes up on the board here or not. But while we wait for that, we've got Chris Foshnot pulling up in the little Miata, the MX-5, powered by a turbo 1.8 liter. And there it is. We got the score for Nathan. It's going to be a 41.33. So again, not too low, but there is quite a lot of stuff to improve upon. As Chris Foshnot now at the line getting ready to go. A couple of interesting sponsors with Chris, one that I actually do a lot of work with outside of here at Erie now, Ignition Speed over in Connecticut. We've also got Redline Oil on there with them, Gem Sport, and not to be confused with Arnold Palmer, but we've got Allard Palmer Landscaping on that car as well here, and he's coming all the way from Chicago. So welcome to the field, Chris. Not exactly the newest face to drifting whatsoever. He's been seen around, but he's ready to throw down.
Certainly no stranger. I've driven a lot of laps with him as he's going to take a stab at qualifying here. Looks like he was a little bit late on initiation, just struggling to get the back of that 1.8-liter Miata to come around. Probably the lowest horsepower car in the field by quite some margin, and he makes it work. But he comes up short on the distinct drift outer zone in the keyhole. Gets the Miata pointed back around on the way out. You can see this car carrying good speed with the amount of horsepower and grip that it has. So certainly competitive, just not as easy to pilot as some of the higher horsepower cars to be able to fill all those zones. So Chris doing a really, really nice job given the dull spoon that he brought to the gunfight here. And by no means is that a shot at Chris. It's me patting him on the back rather hard for being able to pilot that thing like that.
Yeah, if at any point in time you get the chance to talk to Chris, the horsepower of that car is the running joke at all times. He has 100% brought the lowest horsepower car here, and in spite of that, when it comes to battles, keep your eye on him.
Yeah, Chris in that Miata, I was talking to him in the pits earlier today, and he was telling me he's making somewhere around a whopping 250 horsepower. Now, that is nowhere near the highest power car on this grid, but he's still out here making it work. He's competing, and we'll see what he does here in terms of a score, waiting to see that slot in. As we wait, we've got Theon Nelson on the line, piloting that Nissan 370Z. And there it is for Chris. Unfortunately, not a very high score. A couple of issues going on. It's going to be a 38.33. Got a little bit of stuff to improve upon there. But right now, it's all eyes on Theon Nelson.
The judges are going to be strict here today for round number 1 of the Great Lakes Pro-Am Series as Theon initiates into the layout, comes up just a little bit short on the first outer, does a nice job in that second distinct drift outer zone as he gets that Turbo Z pointed towards the infield here. Filling all of these zones here, as you can see. Again, you want to be fast, but in qualifying you can get away with being a little bit more calculated and pointed, as Theon was just a little bit wide on the touch and go, does a nice job of recovering it to the inner clip. Into the last outer zone, just a small waiver as he plants it on the left foot brake on the way out. So just a couple of waivers, but overall one of the cleaner runs that we've seen so far as Theon is hyped up, patting the roof.
Yeah, Theon's car is super duper interesting. That is a completely stock enough 370Z with a home-built turbo kit. Theon taught himself how to weld to make the turbo kit for that car, and it is now on its second year continuous of every single kind of abuse you can imagine, from doing this to putting it against the wall and doing fourth gear burnouts with it, burning the bumpers off the back of it twice that I know of, and just driving it every time he gets the chance. He is never nice to it. And it is one of the strangest dichotomies because Theon is one of the quietest, nicest people we ever meet right until he's behind the wheel of a car, and then he is an absolute animal.
Yeah, Theon was talking a little bit about his confidence when we were in the pits earlier today, and honestly, it looks like he just went out there, had a blast, and it's going to pay off for him with a 75.33 on the board for Theon, so looking pretty comfortable right now. As now we've got Eli Lucier coming up to the line with a Turbo 4.8 LS Corvette with a very nice livery.
Fresh build for Eli. This thing revs out really good as he hits 2 of the cones on initiation, so putting that car just a little bit wider than where you want it to be as he leaves the second outside zone just a little bit early. Doing a nice job here into the keyhole, maybe just a tad late to that distinct drift outer on the way up the power alley. Into the keyhole, gets it pointed at the inner clip, gets through there nice and clean. Last inner, nice job as that C5 Corvette nearly touching cones. Eli, beautiful job as you hear that thing really get up there towards the limiter. That thing is singing.
Yeah, nearly a 9,000 RPM redline on that car, using the 4.8 specifically so that he can rev it higher, being his main distinction as to why he wanted the smaller displacement V8.
Yeah, and that rev limiter sounding absolutely wild as he pins it around the end of the track there. Such a beautiful noise to hear. As we've got Jeff Clark up to the line from Carlton, Michigan, piloting that S197 Mustang with a supercharger under the hood. He's sponsored by Stage Wheels, Tire Streets, and JC Services. Couple of names on there that a lot of people at home might recognize. Some of you in the stands may know as well. As we wait for the last score to come on in here.
Had the pleasure of driving the Great Lakes Pro-Am Series last year. Got to battle Jeff on multiple occasions and handfuls of these other drivers that you're going to see here today. No car in this field, no driver in this field is any joke, as Jeff Clark awaits his opportunity to qualify into round number 1 of the Great Lakes Pro-Am Series presented by Crosby's. Again, shout out to Distinct Drift Formula Drift, everybody else that's on board with the Great Lakes Pro-Am Series to make this happen. I know a lot of you guys here in the grandstands were able to receive tickets from Crosby's, and without them on board, we wouldn't have you guys here. So we appreciate everybody joining us on a beautiful Saturday afternoon as Eli Lucier score comes in at a 53.67. So Jeff Clark gets off the line, rowing gears, sounds like all the way up to third gear, initiates. Can see the car pushing quite a bit as now it snaps around, and unfortunately Jeff gonna hard park it in that first outer zone. So tough break there for Jeff as the car just looked like it wasn't handling quite how he wanted it to. As now he's gonna continue on the lap, but unfortunately going to be an incomplete qualifying attempt number 1 for Jeff Clark. We'll have just a pure sound bit here of this Mustang for you on the way out. Now I will say, as far as qualifying goes, some of the last qualifiers that we're going to see here are the highest points finishing runners in the series last year. And the last qualifier that we should see is Formula Drift Pro Spec member Alan Boss and 2-time Great Lakes Pro-Am Series champion.
As now up to the line in that E46, we've got Henry Donahue coming down.
Henry Donahue just over the border from New York in this LS-powered BMW. He was grinding on the sim all winter long, and he looks confident behind the wheel so far this year as he does a nice job. He was just a little bit wide on outside zone number 2, but doing a beautiful job here into the keyhole as he has hit every zone this point. Points it back towards the inner clip. Henry throwing it down, showing why the sim is so pertinent in any form of racing as he repaints that last outer zone black, man. Absolutely beautiful qualifying run from Henry. Just a little bit wide on that first outer zone.
Yeah, Henry Donahue in the E46. That is a 414 cubic inch LS stroker motor underneath the hood of that thing, with the crazy single plane intake with the sprint car intake on top of it.
And speaking of cars with a big intake sticking out of the hood like this, we've got the manifold sticking out of the hood of the Scion FRS with a supercharged LS under the hood. And don't start spamming Brazil in the chat, because that is not Diego Higa out there. That is Elliott Rose from Massillon, Ohio out there, and that beautiful red Scion FRS waiting to go for that qualifying run.
Yeah, Elliott Rose, supercharged LS under the hood of that. This is a complete labor of love from Elliott. He built that car ground up in his garage with his friends. All the fabrication, all the welding, all the fitting, all Elliott, all the time. And we are getting confirmation now. Henry Donahue going to pull out with a 5.867 for his first run. Very good job there by Henry. Just got cleaned up a little bit.
Elliott Rose, no stranger to the Great Lakes Pro-Am Series, as if I'm not mistaken, he has competed in every year that we've had one. Take a look, pull up the points from last year. Elliott, if I can find him, finished 22nd last year. Going to look to improve here in round number 1. You see he pours the angle to this thing as he's got the power to do it as the smoke starts to roll off the back of that LS supercharged powered FRS into the keyhole. Very confident on throttle as he has piloted this same vehicle for quite some time now as he makes his way all the way down to the inner clip into the last outer zone. And lets the horsepower scream across the line. You got to figure that's going to be one of the higher scoring qualifying runs we've seen yet. See smoke still rolling out of the chassis on his way back into the pits. I'm going to hand it off to Brandon here, but I got to say, this next driver, I'm not biased. I want everybody to do well. One of my favorite people in the entire world, Kevin Ferraro. Tell us about him, Brandon.
Yeah, Kevin pulling up to the line here in that beautiful BMW E36. I got to say, when I was walking through the paddock earlier, checking out a lot of the cars, this is one of the ones that stood out to me the most. That thing is looking really good out there, and it sounds really good, too, with that beautiful M52 turbo powering that car. And like you said, not trying to be any kind of bias here, but Kevin's a pretty cool guy, so hopefully he puts on a pretty cool run for us here. And we do have a score coming in for Elliott Rose. It's going to be a 72 on the board, so not a bad score whatsoever. Possibly sitting safe, looking into that top 24 lock-in.
All right, so Kevin Ferraro, if this is your first time watching us, this is definitely going to be one of your favorites, as he always goes deep into competition when he joins us. He leaves outside zone 1 just a little bit early, but did a nice job of piloting the car into it. Just a tad wide on the inner, sets him up well coming into the keyhole. Gets all of this distinct drift outer zone in the keyhole. Beautiful job to the touch and go. You can see very calculated with the car as he gets it back into the last inner clip to the last outer zone. Kevin comes up just a little bit short, now gets out to that outer zone and lays that skinny pedal to the wood.
Yeah, Kevin Ferraro, every time he comes out here, one of the most, I want to say, consistent drivers. Every time he comes out, absolutely amazing lead runs, absolutely phenomenal chase runs, as I'm sure you will see later on in competition.
Yeah, every single time that Kevin takes to a track, it is always super consistent, putting on a very good show for everybody who's watching. And speaking of cars that are looking pretty good, this one's looking a little bit blank, but honestly, I'm kind of digging the simplicity going on here. We've got Steve DeVittis pulling up to the line in that 335i as the score for Kevin comes in with a 77, a very good and relatively consistent score for Kevin compared to what we've seen from him prior. But now Steve piloting that 335i from Distinct Drift. I got to admit, he's from one of my favorite towns, Beaver Falls, Pennsylvania, and here he goes. He's on his way.
The Keystone Killer, Steven DeVittis, initiates into the first and second outer zone, and this is why he's called the Keystone Killer, as he is calm, cool, and consistent in this car. He's got some fresh parts under the hood, making the big power for him here this year. As you see that front tire smoke as he plants it hard on the left foot brake into the keyhole. By far the cleanest qualifying run we've seen yet. Just a little bit wide on the inner clip. Going to be a pretty good deduction for him there as he makes it into the last outer. Smoke pouring off of the back of this turbo BMW. Lake Erie Speedway, put your hands together for Steve DeVittis.
Steve DeVittis, another one who, if you talk to him in person, one of the calmest, quietest, soft-spoken dudes, but man, when he gets behind the wheel of a car, magic happens every single time.
And relatively new father as well. Just a little fun fact for you. So Steve pulling the double dad and driver duty.
Huge congratulations to Steve on the newborn. Very, very exciting stuff going on over there, and hopefully putting on some very exciting stuff here at the track, as that was a very good run. Now sitting at the line while we wait for that score to drop in, we do have Brendan Gibson Fraley from Sandusky, Ohio, in that pretty much bone stock 370Z out there. And there we go. We got a really nice score from Steve here drop in with a 76.67. So, yeah, very good for him. Congratulations on the newborn coming in. And that was a very good score. But now we've got Brendan at the line on his way. See what he does.
Brendan's second year with the Great Lakes Pro-Am Series, and he makes this thing work. By God, there he is into the second outer zone, getting all of it with this stock-powered Z. It's into the keyhole. Nice job heading up the hill. It's just a little bit shallow to that Distinct Drift outer zone inside of the keyhole. Does a good job here. I can't tell you guys how difficult it is to fill a layout like this with a car power at this level, and this guy absolutely makes that Z shred out here on the Atlanta layout.
Still absolutely crazy that when we talk about Chris in the Miata, we say it's the lowest horsepower car out here, and it's built, turbo, violence, all the noise, and then you have Brendan in a stock 370Z who technically makes more, but that car probably weighs, what, 600-700 pounds more than the Miata does?
Easily.
Yeah, and one of my favorite things whenever these guys come out here in these stock cars is watching them maneuver their way around the course. You see the front end of the car, since there isn't much suspension work going on, just kind of weeble-wobble their way. But, a car that is not stock out here, we do have Jacob Schuster to the line from Hemlock, New York, and that SBC E36 out there. As we wait for Brendan's score to drop in here, we'll see what he gets.
So as we await a score here, again, just want to thank everybody for joining us for the Crosby's Great Lakes Pro-Am Series powered by Summit Racing Equipment. All of the other friends that have joined us along the way of the Great Lakes Pro-Am Series.
And we do have a score on the board for Brendan. Looks like it's going to be a 54.67. So 54.67 on the board for Brendan. Going to turn it over here. Watch what Jacob throws down here for us on this qualifying run.
Jake Schuster, a regular to the Great Lakes Pro-Am Series and drifting at Lake Erie Speedway. Carbureted V8 under the hood. He does a nice job here. You can see cones go flying. He's just a little bit deep. It pushes him out of the zone a little bit early. Is heading up the hill, if you will, here. Misses the inner. Little bit shallow on that distinct drift outer zone in the keyhole. Carbureted V8 starting to sing on the way back down the hill. Oh, it comes apart here. Heading into the last outer, maybe missed a gear going for third on the way out to pick up some speed to be able to fill that entire last outer. Now, let me tell you guys, if you haven't noticed or you've never gotten the chance to go walk down on Lake Erie Speedway, we have progressive banking here. So right at that yellow line around the apron of the track, you start to pick up banking. And if you go wide in outside zone number 1, you're going to get a little bit of banking, and it makes the car want to shoot back down the hill. So we've seen that a couple times now.
All right, and now coming up to the line, we've got Nick Johnson out in that VMP supercharged Mustang GT from a very, very fun town name. I like pronouncing this one, Gobbles, Michigan. That's a pretty nice one. Hopefully there's not a whole big turkey population over that way. But, yeah, he's out here in this beautiful Ford Mustang. Looks like not rocking any door cards, though, by the looks of it. So maybe a little bit of a car issue going on there for him. And Jacob coming in with a 40.67 on the board there. So another one with the .67 tagged on at the end. A lot of that going on, but now we've got Nick at the line ready to throw down.
Yeah, Nick Johnson normally doesn't pilot this car. He has his own S550, so I don't know how many laps he has in this car, as it's a loaner from Mo Alderman, who we'll see here in just a little bit, but familiar to the chassis. So Nick headed down to the inside. Here you can see a little bit of wavering so far to this point as he gets it pointed towards the inner clip, doing what he can to make the most of his limited time here in Mo's Mustang, as he must have had some kind of car issues heading into qualifying here. Doing a pretty good job for not really having any laps in this car at all. So Nick Johnson, all the way from Michigan, throwing it down in Mo's car, man.
Yeah, I mean, I saw that Mustang on track during practice, and I just assumed it was Mo. So shout out to Nick there for making it happen in a borrowed car. And, I mean, the incredible generosity of Mo Alderman to lend such a car out for a competition where things are very commonly destroyed.
Yeah, not only is it cool of him to be able to lend that car out to one of his competitors like that, but also how lucky do you got to be to show up to an event, have car trouble, and then be handed the keys to another platform that you're already familiar with? And definitely looked like he went out there and made the absolute most of it. As somebody else looking to make the most out of it right now, we've got Josh Leatherbarrow in that LS2 powered 135i, another 1 Series on the grid. This one, a little bit of red, a little bit of yellow going on, so we got some different colors to identify them. But Josh coming out here from North Collins, New York, self-represented, so he's out here repping himself, and he's looking to put on a real good show for all you guys here at Erie Speedway.
Josh Leatherborough, again, no stranger to the Great Lakes Pro-Am Series, as I'm pretty sure that he's run just about every run that we've had since inception. I think maybe a couple of times mechanicals taking him out or not allowing him to run around, but this is no slouch of a car and no slouch of a driver, as when the car allows him to do what he has the intent to do, he does it very, very well. So Josh looking to get the car pointed here for round number 1. His score is in for Nick Johnson, a 40.33 on Nick's first run. So Nick going to look to probably make some improvement if he's not locked in to the top 24 at the end of this one, as Josh Leatherborough, the nice livery, heads in to the first outer, gets all of it as you see a cone fly, and leaves outside zone number 2 just a little bit early. Good job on the inner clip. Gets to the distinct drift outer zone going up the hill just a little bit late, but puts the tire right on the back of outside zone number 3. As very, very nice transitions in this run from Josh. Nice, snappy, big angle, lots of throttle commitment right up against that white line. Does a beautiful job setting the car up into the last outer zone. Good qualifying effort here for Josh Leatherborough.
Yeah, not a bad run at all there from Josh Leatherbarrow. Very, very consistent, it looks like, for the most part. A couple of things that could be corrected. Obviously, you never want to see a cone get punted out of the way, but looks like Josh didn't really care about that cone, so that cone went bye-bye. But now we've got another Josh coming up to the line here in a very, very unique setup. We've got a BMW E46, but that's not just any E46. We've got a K24 turbo under the hood powering that car, which is a motor, for those of you who don't know, out of a nice little Honda. Nice little 4-banger power in that car. He's coming to us from Fall River, Massachusetts. And we do have a score in for Josh Leatherbarrow with a 68 on the board. So not a bad score whatsoever. Putting you pretty much right smack dab in the middle of where we're at. But now Josh Dennis getting ready to take off from the line.
Joshua Dennis, no stranger to the Great Lakes Pro-Am, runs in East 10 Drift as well. So Josh gets initiated, does a beautiful job in the second outer zone. Smoke pouring off of the K24 powered BMW as he heads up. Oh, he pushes it real wide through the keyhole. Maybe 3 off there for Dennis, so going to be a major, major deduction. And one of the things that you guys might not be familiar with is, oh, Josh Dennis, very, very wide again. So it looks like 3 tires off as he bounces that K24 off a limiter. But something that you guys might not be as accustomed to is, as we go through qualifying and competition, the tire rubber is starting to erase some of the zones, which makes it harder and harder to see. So for a lot of these guys deeper in qualifying, it's really probably a disadvantage.
Yeah, definitely not the kind of stuff that we wanted to see there. Going a little bit off of the track and definitely not being nice to those cones. But we've got our wonderful track workers down there getting ready to correct all those issues. As sitting at the line, another very nice car on the grid here. We've got Eric Kenanowicz from Colchester, Connecticut, with that 5.2 Voodoo Mustang, as Josh Dennis sliding in with a 47.33 for that run. Not the best, not the worst. Obviously quite a little bit to clean up there as well, but nothing that you might not be able to write off just yet until we see what happens at the end here. But right now, Eric getting ready to take off in that Voodoo-powered Ford Mustang as soon as we get these track workers all clear.
Another one of these builds that is SEMA level quality, absolutely phenomenal. As Eric Kananowitz initiates into the first outer, gets all of it. You see the smoke coming off of that right front tire as he's heavy on the left foot brake and heavy on the throttle commitment through the second outer zone. Nice snap to the inner clip. Again, hard on the left foot brake as he heads up here into the keyhole, repainting that outer line. Eric Kananowitz with an absolutely killer run to this point in qualifying. Maybe just a little bit wide, pushes him just a bit wide of that last inner clip as he comes up short on the way out of the last outer zone. But that motor though, man, flat plane crank, V8 out of the GT350 or GT350R. Absolutely singing here in qualifying.
Yeah, the Voodoo motor, a very popular motor in motorsports. A lot of people really enjoy the sound that you get out of that, and you can get a lot of power out of it too. And that car, definitely not an exception. Making it look like spinning the tires is as easy as pie. But now we've got another one of Mo's cars out here on the grid, but this time it is actually driven by Mo Alderman. So now going to be piloting that 240SX S14 with a 2JZ under the hood. I know a lot of the folks watching back home, a lot of fans of this motor, so get ready for some of that 2JZ goodness on here as we get ready to see what Mo puts down for us. Still waiting to get that score in for Eric here. So we'll see what he gets, and there it is. It's going to be a 64 for Eric on the board. And now Mo going to get ready to see if he can one-up his other car that was out here on the grid.
Mo Alderman makes his way down the run-up, initiates good. You can see when that turbo lights up, this thing's got some legs underneath of it as he comes just short on outside zone number 2. Going up the hill, misses the inner clip, gets all of that distinct drift outer zone. He is a distinct driver as well. Through the keyhole, does a really nice job, but a couple mistakes through the early portion of this run that he'd like to have back as he lays the skinny pedal down into the last outer zone. The JZ singing limiter praises all the way across the line.
As right now pulling up to the line, and yet another one of those Corvettes that we've got out here on the grid, and not a Corvette that's necessarily a stranger to anybody. Another one of our Canadian drivers out here, Andrew Shorkey, which, again, we talk about the Canadians and their common sponsors. We've got FabMac and FDF on that car, two of the probably most common sponsors that you're going to see coming off of these Canadian drivers. Also, we got At Hand Wheels on there and 945 Garage.
Good friend of the series in the Speedway here, and Andrew Shorkey had the car out at Spring Mats Erie doing some testing. This thing rips. He had it planted on my door. His score is in for Mo Alderman, 64.33 on Mo's first run. So again, lots of small mistakes so far in qualifying. As Andrew Shorkey, this LS powered car absolutely sings as he initiates. Gets all of the first zone to the second zone. Really nice job leaving just a little bit early, but one of the better jobs on getting in and staying in. As you can see how much speed and grip this car has into the keyhole, is when he puts that skinny pedal down, this thing is moving outward. Continues on through the keyhole. Easily the cleanest run to this point that we've seen so far today, as he makes it into that last outer zone. Lake Erie Speedway, who else loves LS power, baby? That car's got dog box, quick change, the whole 9 this year, so for sure an absolute race car. I love the way that thing sounds, though.
And we talk about that LS goodness. We're not done with the LS motors yet. We've got Andrew Falk up to the line here. from Carrollton, Ohio, driving an LS-powered BMW E36, sponsored by Steel City Greaseman, 349 Fab, and Total Loss in that beautiful, beautiful blue color there.
I had the pleasure last year of getting knocked out by Andrew Falk, so certainly a skilled driver, knows how to pilot this thing. As Zach points out to me, we did not fist fight. I got knocked out of competition last year as I drove in the Great Lakes Pro-Am Series, so handed the keys to Zach and Darren last year to handle the booth activities, and now I've been relinquished back to the booth.
Well, hopefully you see a good job here with your commentary on this one, or that fist fight might actually end up becoming a reality here, so hopefully you didn't jinx yourself on that.
Andrew Falk, one of the, I don't want to call it simple because it's still an LS swap, and we all know how that goes. $600 turns into $6,000, turns into $20,000, but
Yep.
A pretty grassroots level setup, I would say. Basic LS, cam, ANE 36. I believe it's got a T56 behind it, stock rear end. So it is, at its roots, it's still a BMW. It's not quite like a full G-Force quick change car and all that. So he pilots it extremely well, though.
And for Shorky, we are getting the word that it's going to be an 85 on the board. So an 85 on the board for Shorky, a very, very good score. Just like we said, one of the cleanest runs that we've seen all day here. But now we're going to turn over and take a look at what Andrew's going to put down for us in that E36.
Andrew Falk heads down the run-up, heading to the second outer distinct drift zone, leaves quite a bit early, so leaving a lot to be desired on the second outer zone as the car picks up a ton of speed heading up the hill. Gonna miss most of that outer zone, misses most of the keyhole outer zone as well. Good job on the inner to the touch and go, throws a ton of angle as the LS-powered BMW begins to throw smoke off the back as those tires get nice and toasty. Comes up just short on that last outer zone, but finishes it out strong. Gonna send it out of here properly for you guys with a nice little burnout.
And now pulling up to the line in a turbo M50 BMW E46. Contrary to popular belief from what I heard some people saying out in the paddock earlier, that is not Dimitri Brutsky out there. That is Colin Gillespie from Northeast Pennsylvania. Also supporting them is the Lane Glide app, Report All, LGE Coachworks, and again, we've got Team Dirty Works showing up in the mix out here.
Colin Gillespie, no slouch to be talked of. Absolute veteran of the series, notorious for having one of the fastest cars on the property. This is a quick change, dog box, big turbo. I believe he's somewhere in the 400-ish horsepower range, but do not let the numbers deceive you. That car is a rocket ship.
Colin finished 6th overall last year in the Great Lakes Pro-Am Series. Took home the win in round number 3. So certainly looking to build on what he was able to do last year. The round that he won, and I'm sorry I might be speaking a little foreign for some people, but did it on Ironmans, which was absolutely mind-boggling to a lot of people. I'm a big Ironman fan, so not as mind-boggling to me, but
All right, and score coming in there for Andrew Falk is going to walk away with a 50, so a little bit of work to do. And what Ben was talking about, the Ironmans, in case for the uninitiated into the drift tire world, that is an all-season tire.
Colin Gillespie, fresh parts on this car. He can pick the wheel speed he wants, and he pushes wide. Going to be at least 2 tires off, maybe 3, so going to be a huge huge shortcoming on outside zone number 2 for Colin Gillespie. As he makes his way into the keyhole, you can see a little bit of wavering as he's getting used to these fresh changes on this car. He was able to test this out at Spring Mats Erie, but getting into the competition setting is a totally another ball game for Colin here as he finishes out strong. So, I mean, gosh, if it wasn't for the big air on outside zone number 2 on the way in, probably would have been a really nice looking run there for Colin.
And I know watching Colin in practice and standing there talking to a spotter a little bit, struggling a little bit this morning to figure out some wheel speeds and kind of get the quick change dialed into the layout today. So it looks like he might just be there, probably just adjusting to the changes that have been made. And hopefully when he comes back out or even when he gets into battles later, we're going to see the Colin that we have all come to know and love.
And earlier at the start of this event, we did remind everybody that we are a Pro-Am series for the Formula Drift competition, which if any of these guys happen to win the championship, they make their way into the Formula Drift Pro Spec series. Somebody who's already been to the Formula Drift field, definitely not a stranger here, definitely not a stranger to drifting. We've got Dirk Stratton in the 454 powered Corvette pulling up to the line. Of course, sponsored by the family business of Stratton Chevrolet going up on there. Out there in Ohio. Dirk was just down there at Hyperfest throwing that car around. Got the chance to talk to him down there, and I got to say, he was very excited about being here at Erie Speedway, putting on a show for all you fans in the grandstand.
You guys won't want to miss this action in top 32 when the lights go off. This Corvette is a fire-breathing animal.
And we are getting confirmation now. Colin Gillespie going to walk away with a 57 for that first qualifying run.
Also, really cool thing about this Corvette is when the lights go down in top 32 competition, the decals on the side are actually illuminated on this car. This is another really nasty sounding car as Dirk initiates. Oh, he's going to go wide on outside zone number 2 as well. 2 tires out, sending some cones for a field trip. As he cleans it up here coming into the keyhole. Drops about a half a tire on that outer zone. But as Brandon said, Dirk, no stranger to competition, former competitor in what used to be the Pro 2 series of Formula Drift and Pro 1 as well. So Dirk Stratton looking to steal the kids' lunch money here at round number 1, leaving a little bit left to be desired here in his first qualifying run.
Yeah, and the power plant of that car, just for some keywords out there for some people who know some things about some big power motors, that is a Lingenfelder 454. So definitely no slouch going on there.
Synonymous in the Corvette world.
One of the absolute best in the Corvette world, one of the most loved out there. Speaking of engines that are most loved in the community that they come from, we've got a very interesting car on the grid here. And as a Volkswagen owner myself, I'm very excited to see this car out here on track. We've got Andre in the VR6 turbo-powered Audi RS5. This is a very, very wild build that we've got going on here. And I am so excited to hear this VR6 ripping around Erie Speedway here.
Yeah, and if you have the live stream pulled up there, there is your live standings. Jake Moole leading the way with the 86.33. Andrew Shorkey in second with the 85. Kevin Ferraro, Steven DeVitis, Brian Martin, Theon Nelson, Elliott Rose, Josh Leatherborough, and Mo Alderman. And Eric Kananowick's going to be your top 10 so far.
Again, we're going with the top 24 for one run, and then if you're not in the top 24, you're going to get a second run to try to get locked into the top 32. We will not have qualifying for the rest of the rounds. They will get seeded based off of the previous round's finish. Andriy Musienko from Canada in this all-custom carbon Kevlar VR6 Turbo Audi RS6. Gets all of the first and second outer zone as you can hear this thing absolutely screaming as he's driven a handful of times already this year. Absolutely crushing it into the keyhole, spitting massive flames out of the back of the Turbo VR6 powered Audi absolutely loving the limiter. Woo-wee. Laying it down, putting on a show here in qualifying for everybody watching at Lake Erie Speedway. How's about it? Andriy Musienko. And that is, you know, for anybody that's new to drifting or has not ever been to a Great Lakes Pro-Am Series, that is exactly what the judges are looking for in a qualifying run. Again, here we're going to have another Formula Drift former pro-level driver. Brandon, take it away.
Yeah, definitely no stranger to competition drifting here. We got Troy Manners in a very unique little bit of a car here. Believe it or not, even though it looks like it is an S15, that's actually a 240SX with a little bit of a body upgrade to it. Under the hood, also not exactly what you would expect in this car. We've got a 1JZ. So I know there's always been the debate, what sounds better, the 1JZ, the 1.5, and the 2JZ. I got to say the 1JZ is one of my favorites, and Troy is going to be letting us listen to that beautiful motor as he makes his way around this track. As it looks like Andriy's score is coming in with a very high 79.67. So just like we had mentioned before, putting down exactly what the judges wanted to see there, but still a little bit that can be improved upon.
Troy Manners came in third overall last year in the Great Lakes Pro-Am Series. Didn't win a round last year, however. Came close, but always ended up on that second step or close to it. As this JZ sings, this car is fast and light as he gets all of outside zone number 2. JZ Power singing on the way up the hill. Comes up just a little bit shy. Some uncharacteristic mistakes here from Squirt through the keyhole as he makes his way back down through the inner clip, does a nice job gathering it back up, sets the car for this last outer zone and gets on the left foot brake, laying down that Zestino tire smoke. By far one of the best sounding cars on grid, by far.
Troy making his way off of the track, coming out here and throwing that car. Gotta love how that thing sounds as he makes his way around the course. But now, another car that you gotta love the sound of, we got even more LS power coming for you guys out there in the grandstands. We've got the two-time Erie champion here, Alan Boss, who is actually competing in Formula Drift already in the Pro Spec championship. But he's here to kind of hold down that title, see if he can keep everybody else who's trying to get into that competition away, maybe give himself a little bit of a better shot in that 350Z.
As Brandon mentioned, two-time and reigning Great Lakes Pro-Am Series champion, Alan Boss. Got the killer flamingo livery on this all carbon fiber 350 or 70. I'm sorry, I'm ignorant to 50-70 things. 350Z. Again, all carbon fiber. Tons of sponsors and support for Alan, as Brandon mentioned. Currently in the Formula Drift Pro Spec ranks. And Alan comes here for seat time and the opportunity to retain his Pro Spec license moving forward.
Now, one of the things that there is to note about Boss, he has had a little bit of a rough start to the Formula Drift season, so maybe he's coming in here looking for some redemption. Try to light that spark back up for him as Troy Manner's score does come in, and that's a very nice score. We've got a 69.67 on the board for Troy. So now we're going to turn it over to Alan and see what he does here in the Great Lakes Pro-Am Series.
Alan Boss in the supercharged LS-powered carbon fiber Z, singing it on the limiter into the second outer zone. in there just a little bit shallow as the tire smoke is pouring off the back here. Lots of throttle commitment as he gets heavy on the left foot brake into the keyhole. Absolutely perfect line through the distinct drift outer zone. You can hear him lug this thing down on the way out, gets all of the inner clip with surefire confidence in this FabMac Industries carbon fiber LS 350Z. Lake Erie Speedway, round of applause for Alan Boss.
Alan Boss making his way off of the track there after finishing out that beautiful qualifying run. Very, very nicely done, showing why he is the two-time champ here as we wait to go ahead and get his score up on the board there. Erie Speedway, how we feeling out there? Make some noise if you're excited, if you're enjoying the show out there in the grandstands. And there it is on the board for Alan Boss, a 78.33. So very nice score from our two-time champ here at the Great Lakes Pro-Am Series. But now we're going to go ahead, take a little bit of a short break. So if you got to hit the bathroom, get some food, grab yourself a drink, maybe a little bit of an alcoholic beverage, now is the time. We'll be back in about 5-10 minutes to bring you the rest of our qualifying action.
stand side here in a couple minutes to start some autographs. As we get safety back out on track here, we are lining up cars in the paddock to do their second qualifying run. So for confirmation, coming out on track, this is going to be everybody underneath the top 24 in qualifying will get the opportunity to put down a second run to try and make their way into the top 32 drivers bracket. Out on track right now in the burnout box is Dominic Desrosiers.
So as Zach said, thanks for sticking with us through the short break here. Hope that everybody got what you needed on the quick break. Again, drivers already locked into top 32 competition in that top 24 are right behind the grandstands here, right by the speed shop, taking autographs for you guys right now. So make sure that you stop back and say hello to those guys. Wish them good luck here in top 32 competition as we round out qualifying with the last handful of drivers. As Zach had stated, starting with Dominic. Looks like Gabriel had technical issues and is not going to be able to qualify here in round number 1. Chris Gonzalez, Jake Little, Andrew Wilder, Maxime Cyrene, Liam Stanford, Nathan Brackstone, Chris Fosnack, Jeff Clark, Jake Schuster, Nick Johnson, and Joshua Dennis all going to get the opportunity to make a second run to fill in from 24 to 32. So we're about ready for that. Again, if you're still down in the concourse, make sure you head over to those drivers, get an autograph, because handfuls of these guys, if not at least one of these guys, is going to be one of the faces of the future of Formula Drift Pro Spec right from our backyard here at Lake Erie Speedway at the Great Lakes Pro-Am Series presented by Crosby's and powered by Summit Racing Equipment. So far we've seen handfuls of mistakes as Dominic is on his way out for his second run. Much cleaner initiation this time, but he's going to fall short of that whole second outer zone, looking really similar to his first qualifying effort as he makes his way up the hill, gets all of that distinct drift outer zone heading into the keyhole, sends it a little bit wide, 2 tires off, maybe 3 for just a split second as he makes his way back down the hill. Just cannot seem to get a hang on that inner clip in the center of the layout. As he finishes out strong, but again, almost an identical looking second run here for Dominic. So again, most of these drivers here that are getting a second stab at qualifying are new to the Great Lakes Pro-Am Series, so not sure how many have Pro-Am experience or high-level competition experience, but trying to shake the dust off, get acclimated and comfortable.
And a score coming in there for Dominic, going to be a 38.33 for that second run. So ultimately, the second run is going to be a fresh start for these guys. They are now competing against their fellow drivers here underneath of the top 24. And with Gabriel not able to make it out to qualifying, this is going to be Christopher Gonzalez on the line in that turboed E46.
If you're down in the stands, look to your right, there's a camera. You're on TV, baby. Say hi to your mom. All right, Chris Gonzalez is out and initiating into outside zone number 1. Does a really nice job on outside zone number 2 as the BMW laying smoke down on the surface. Good job coming up the hill into the keyhole, getting all of these zones. Quite an improvement over his first qualifying attempt as he is knocked the nerves down and is calm, cool, collected, just a little bit wide on the inner clip. And finishes out strong. A major, major improvement for Gonzalez on this second run. Let's see what the judges think about this one.
Yeah, Christopher Gonzalez there taking all the notes from run number 1 and putting it down in run number 2. Absolutely phenomenal job there from, this is a first timer here at the Great Lakes Pro-Am Series.
Yeah, after seeing Chris down at Hyperfest absolutely ripping in that exact same car, very excited to see him up here at Lake Erie Speedway, and that was a heck of a run that we just got to see him put on. Now, hopefully we're going to see something pretty similar, maybe better, from Jake Little here as he gets back up to the line in that C6 Corvette.
Yeah, Jake Little has a unfortunate morning. Christopher Gonzalez getting a 76 there on his second run, so I believe that will absolutely do it for him, provided the rest of the guys here hopefully make up for it. As you can see there, Jake Little has left the line.
Jake Little going to try to make the most of his trip from North Carolina all the way to Lake Erie, Pennsylvania, as big wavering on initiation causes him to miss most of that second outer zone. Does a nice job on the inner clip. Again, just a little bit short on that distinct drift outer coming up against that K-rail wall. Gets out of the keyhole to the inner clip, doing a nice job. Heading towards the outer zone, pounds the angle to that C6 Corvette as the LS Power making light work of them tires.
Definitely an improvement from what we saw from Jake on that first run that he did. Looks like we're definitely going to be getting a bit of a score on the board here. A lot better, a lot more composed, a lot more consistent. Still quite a bit of things that could be cleaned up there, but all that you got to do when you come back out here for that second run of qualifying is do something better than what you did the first time and hope that it sticks.
Making memories at Lake Erie Speedway. The FDA Association is down here in front of the booth, the Future Drifters of America with the flags, getting hyped for Jake Little and everybody else trying to qualify their way in. If this is your first time coming drifting, we appreciate you guys joining us. As, again, we're just getting our feet wet. This is like the heat races. I'm sure most of you are familiar with dirt track racing around here. If not, asphalt oval racing right here at Lake Erie Speedway. That this is just to set the field of competition, and then we're going to go elbows up, one against one, in a heads-up run against each other as Jake Little scores a 56.67, so an improvement for Jake Little here in his second run, but is also left quite a bit to be desired as Andrew Wilder now taking to the track.
Andrew Wilder with an initiation there, not quite getting into that outside zone and then going far wide, trying to make up for it later as he catches a cone and spits it out from underneath the car. Misses that inside zone, goes a little bit wide into that other outside zone, now into the keyhole, a little bit shallow. Can he make up for it on the second half of this run? Gets into the touch and go, a little bit wide, doesn't quite make it back that inner clip. You can see a little bit of a correction there, straightening coming into this final outside zone as he lays it down. Tire smoke rolling out of the back of the FRS. I know that Andrew is probably less than enthused with that run. I hope it does enough for him. Putting on a show here as he leaves. Big backwards entry there into the chute.
Maxime Cyrene now going to take to the line in what is one of Brandon's favorite cars in the entire paddock.
It's because I'm green, isn't it?
Yeah, not enough can be said about this car. There's some JDM haters out there, I'm sure, that hear SR20 and it instantly puts a bad taste in their mouth. But, man, 640 wheel horsepower out of 2 liters is something to talk about for sure. And as far as I know in the time that I've seen this car, nothing's really gone too terribly wrong with it. It's just a solid, high horsepower, well-built vehicle.
No doubt on that one, as Maxime definitely makes this SR go to work for him, as Zach mentioned in the first qualifying run. Andrew Wilder's score is in. Run number 2 for Andrew Wilder is going to be a 30. So looking to make some improvements. As Andrew Wilder, unfortunately, going to be sticking right around where he was after his first run. So see what happens here, but there's definitely some guys that have some veteran presence in the Great Lakes Pro-Am Series that are up on the chopping block as we stand right now with just a couple competitors left to qualify. As I had mentioned, there's drivers behind the grandstands right by the speed shop doing autographs right now before we get into top 32 competition. You might not even know who your favorite driver is yet, but he might be sitting right there waiting to sign an autograph for you. So make sure you drop down and show some love to the competitors. Maxime down the straight, initiates into that first outer zone, gets all of it. You can see very much more calculated, but he misses all of outside zone number 2, unfortunately. Trying to bring that turbo SR20 back to life coming up the hill. As you can see, when that tire smoke stops, that thing's trying to get wound up and moving. And again, Maxime leaving quite a bit to be desired, as he did in the first run. Missing a handful of zones to this point, but gets all of this last outer zone. As all 600 horsepower of that SR20 is screaming.
And when that thing does get into boost, it moves out. I really think it's just the keyhole here is going to be such a struggle for guys that are kind of on that lower displacement. They're relying on boost, and they got to kick the thing back to life to get it to move. And Maxime, not really sure that he's going to see an improvement on that, honestly. Over his first run, it looked pretty similar.
Yeah, definitely not much of a cleanup going on there, but it looks like Maxime is going to be going in with a 44 there on that run. So 44 on the board there for Maxime. When we talk about some of my favorite cars on grid, here we've got Liam Stanford back on the line in such a beautiful BMW, taking off to go and put down the second round.
Dart 427 powered LS BMW Slip Club on the side of it. Doing a nice job so far, shallows up the angle and shoots him aggressively out of outside zone number 2 as he puts the power back to the earth, heading up the alley. Missed the inner clip. Oh, he's gonna temporarily straighten heading into the keyhole. Pushes him shallow on that distinct drift outer zone as he does a nice job getting back to the touch and go, blows by the inner clip once again on the way out. Liam Stanford, again, another similar run. As it seems like maybe some of these guys that are having to get a second run, just maybe a little bit too much grip in the car, fighting, some setup issues. As not sure if Liam can even see as he pulls off the track.
As he makes his way off of the track there, now we've got Braxton pulling back up in that silver C6 Corvette here, getting ready to go ahead and throw down that second run, hoping for some improvement on that first score that he put on the board there. And, well, he's in a C6. We've seen quite a lot of the C6s do some pretty good work today. He's hoping that he can be one of the ones to go out there and put on that score to solidify him into the 32.
All right, and the score is in there for Liam Stanford. It's going to be a 36.33. So not a lot of improvement there for him. And I have to believe coming into the keyhole there, it seemed like he missed a gear trying to downshift. And just super unfortunate to see a car straighten out mid-run.
Nathan Brackstone. A big stando flick into that first outer zone. Gets all of outside zone number 2, putting the tires right on the back of that zone. Nice job on the inner clip as the Corvette gets woed up going up the hill. Going to cause him to miss that distinct drift outer zone up against the wall. Well, very wide here. Almost makes love with the K-rail there. Gets the inner clip and heads into the last outer zone. Gets there just a little bit late, and you can hear him laboring the throttle on the way out as to not push it off the track. So Brackstone nearly avoiding big trouble with the K-rails. If you've never seen that happen, I hope that you don't see it happen tonight, but carnage ensues once the K-rails get involved. So Brackstone flirting with disaster on the way out of the keyhole. Brandon, who do we got next?
Oh, well, next up, we've got one of the guys at a company that I work for sponsors. We've got Chris in the Miata, the slow, low, but definitely not last to the count here, as Brackstone's score gets coming in here with a 52.33. We're going to get ready to listen to this 1.8 turbo scream around the track, all fierce, 250 whopping horsepower out of that car. Here he goes, out through the start chicane.
Chris with the flick into that first outer zone. Gets there, it pushes him just a little bit short on outside zone number 2. Gonna miss the majority of outside 2. Banging the limiter of that 1.8 turbo up the keyhole. Does a nice job on the distinct drift outer zone in the keyhole. It's the car rotated around a little bit shy of the touch and go. Allows him to keep the speed up heading back towards this last outer zone. Got to make all of that horsepower work for him on the way out, as it looked like he got the setup of that 1.8T Miata set up very well for his second run here.
Yeah, I'd have to believe that's going to be an improvement there for Chris in his second qualifying run. Absolutely love that car, and the fact that the last time he came here and we asked him about what it was making for horsepower when he came through tech, he said, and I quote, "I don't know, it's not enough, but we're going to figure it out." And then now you ask him about it, and he's got dyno numbers. It's still not enough, and he is still figuring it out.
As there it is, Chris's score comes in, and it looks like it is, I believe, an improvement there with a 60.33. So I believe that is going to be good enough to get him up there into the show as of right this second. But we're not done yet. Next up, we got Jeff Clark making his way through that start chicane in the Ford Mustang.
Jeff Clark from Carlton, Michigan, initiates. See an aggressive angle. Oh, he's pushing through the front wheels. Nearly the same situation that we saw on his first run, where that thing just did not want to work around with him. It creates a big waver as he's still fighting understeer up into the keyhole. Oh, yeah, maybe shut down now. Having some trouble coming out of the keyhole. Mechanical issue potentially here for Jeff Clark, unfortunately. Gonna put him in a position that he may not qualify for round number 1 of the Crosby's Great Lakes Pro-Am Series powered by Summit Racing Equipment.
Yeah, it sounded like coming into the keyhole there, Jeff Clark dropped a couple of cylinders, almost shut the car down, and then kept it rolling just enough to keep it alive. But, man, it did not sound healthy when he tried to get back on it. And you can see coming through already, straight zeros across the board. Really unfortunate series of events there for Jeff Clark.
Now at the line in that BMW E36, we've got Jacob Schuster from Hemlock, New York, getting ready to go and throw down that second run for qualifying here. Let's see what he can do.
Jake Schuster initiates, leaves that first outer zone a little bit early. It sets him up short for outside zone number 2. As you hear him rip the downshift from third to second on his way up the hill. Certainly no shortage of action in the cockpit of this carbureted V8-powered BMW for Jake Schuster as he makes his way back down. You're going to hear him click the car back into third here. And lays it back to the wood through the last outer zone. So unfortunately, more issues for Jake Schuster in his second run here. Again, just everybody knocking the dust off of a long winter, getting back into competition driving, and not being easy for everybody.
Yeah, and for the guys out there that know kind of the old school V8s, that is a 355 crate motor. So I believe, allegedly, it's like 525-ish horsepower. That is a very interesting build for anybody who's in drifting. More often you'll see an LS. If you have a Mustang, you're going to see things like Coyote. If you have a little bit older Mustang, it's all the 5.0 stuff. That one, definitely a very interesting swap. And to be carbureted is just, I mean, he's the only one here with a carbureted anything. So,
yeah, unless you're Eric Kananowitz and want to flex your voodoo on the rest of us. Scores in for Jake Schuster, a 48 on Jake Schuster's second run.
And now, speaking of the Ford Mustangs, that very, very popular platform in drifting, we've got the borrowed Mustang being driven by Nick Johnson right now, going for a second run.
Nick Johnson looking to improve on his first score. You can see a little bit of wavering for him here into initiation through outside zone number 2. Powers that Mustang up the alley into the keyhole, coming up short on that distinct drift outer zone. Does a nice job getting it to the touch and go, as you can hear the freedom trying to be let out of this Mustang as he comes back to the last outer zone, crackling and popping around the way. As I said, Nick, no stranger to this Mustang platform, but I really don't think that Nick has any laps, if many at all, in Mo Alderman's spare Mustang.
and like I said earlier, I saw that car come out on track in practice. And I had talked to Mo when he was doing tech, and he said he was having some issues with the S14, and he wasn't sure what he was ultimately going to end up driving. And I thought it was Mo when he came out, but as it turns out, it was Nick. And pulling up to the line there, we have Josh Dennis in that K24 turbo-powered E46. Nick Johnson's score coming through with a 56.33 for run 2.
All right, Joshua Dennis in the Honda-powered BMW gets into the first outer zone. Second outer zone is up and down. He leaves just a little bit early as he starts his way up the hill here, getting most of that outer zone. Gets to the touch and go efficiently. Nice job on the inner clip. Last outer zone, he's got it pointed nicely. Oh, and it shuts down on him. It seems like Josh has always been plagued in the Great Lakes Pro-Am Series with some kind of issue with his car. God knows he's a capable driver. You see the frustration set in as he blows them off.
I say we gave him an extra pity point there for that little show at the end there. A little bit of an extra pity point. But we're also commentators, so I think the judges are going to probably incomplete that one there.
That was shaping up to be an absolutely beautiful run there by Josh Dennis. Super unfortunate to have the car shut down. It looked like it almost lost power there coming into that final outside zone. And it is indeed going to be a 0. So super unfortunate. Hate to see that. Josh is an amazing guy. That car is astonishing if you get underneath the hood of it. It's so clean and so well done. Full dry sump setup in the K24.
So that's going to round out our second chance qualifiers here in a somewhat knockout style qualifying bracket to get us going. Again, if you're joining us and you're new to drifting, there will not be qualifying for the rest of the Great Lakes Pro-Am Series rounds. Just for this one to get us started, all the rest of the rounds of the year will be seeded based on points and the previous round's finishings. So we're going to have a quick intermission here, but real quick before we head, I want to make sure that everybody knows who's in and who's out, so I'm just waiting for an update from the admin team here to see who seeded in and who did not make the cut here for the Crosby's Great Lakes Pro-Am Series, fueled by Summit Racing Equipment. You can see the track workers are out relining the track. There's still probably a couple of drivers back behind the grandstands waiting for autographs for you guys, so make sure you stop back there. We're going to get to driver introductions at 7 o'clock. It's currently 6:25, so if you're joining us on the live stream or here at the Speedway, hang in tight with us, and we'll have some fun here during the intermission as the top 32 are starting to pop up on live stream. Okay, so the 8 drivers that are going to advance and fill in our top 32 are going to be Christopher Gonzalez, Chris Fosnacht, Jake Little all the way from North Carolina, Nick Johnson in the borrowed Mo Alderman Mustang, Nathan Brackstone in his Corvette, Jacob Schuster in that carbureted 355 powered BMW, Joshua Dennis going to make it in on his first qualifying attempt of a 47.33 after that last zero, so hopefully he can get that car turned around. And Maxime Cyrene in that SR20 powered Nissan S chassis. Dominic DeRosier, Liam Stanford, and Andrew Wilder and Jeff Clark, unfortunately, going to be heading home early here in round 1, not making the top 32.
If you want to keep track of what's going on here at the Speedway on your mobile device, you can look us up on Flow Racing or YouTube at Great Lakes Pro-Am. On there, you'll get full replays of every single run every time they go, as well as live scoring, and introductions for drivers will be on the screen, so you can get to put a name to the face and everything in between.
That is going to conclude qualifying for round number 1 of the Crosby's Great Lake Pro-Am Series, fueled by Summit Racing Equipment. Stay posted. Probably catch me out there with a microphone in my face having fun.